Live from Houston, Texas on my side, I have a guest that's not from Houston, but welcome to today's episode of What Makes You Tick. Look, I'm really excited that you're here. But before we dive in, just a few quick housekeeping notes to make this a great experience for everyone. Today, I have an amazing guest and honored to connect with her and bring her story to you guys. But before we begin, a couple of notes. This is an interactive live session, so you're encouraged to participate, ask questions, and connect. To ask a question, just drop it into the chat. We'll bring key insights to the conversation. We'll use LinkedIn DM and the comment section for the event posting for any behind the scenes coordination. So please feel free to message us. If you get connected, LinkedIn does this from time to time, just simply rejoin. We know many of you are listening while commuting and working, so please engage however you can. Even quiet listeners are important and an important part of our community. Thanks again for being here. Now let's get started. My guest today is a lady I had the privilege of listening to as part of the FOHE Champagne Hour about 2 months ago. I immediately reached out to her and connect because her message aligned with the passion that I have for education, the understanding of the direction we need to go. Her message inspired me to learn more. It is a privilege to have her as a guest today. She is a Chief Strategy Officer at the CAPS, C-A-P-S, all capital, network, and has spent nearly 2 decades transforming K through 12 education through innovation and equity-centered design. She is co-founder of Portal Learning, where she pioneered an innovation micro high school a model focused on experimental career learning, successful transition from organization to school operation to a nonprofit provider. Before that, she served as a principal of Da Vinci Design, a leading project-based learning charter school in Los Angeles. With expertise spanning strategic planning, her human-centered design, and authentic learning experience, she brings a unique perspective on what it takes to foster the love of learning while preparing young people for future success, which we align completely on. It's my honor to introduce Kate Parsons. Kate, how are you?
Hi, Bryan. I'm good. Thanks for having me here today. I'm really excited.
It's awesome to have you. Look, share with the audience a little bit of your story. How did you get started with what you're doing, that kind of stuff?
Sure. Like many people, I think, who land in these roles down the line, I started as a teacher. I came from a family of teachers. So my mom was a teacher. My uncle was a counselor. A lot of my cousins are teachers. My brother is a teacher. Mm-hmm. So I come from a family of educators. And I started teaching in fairly traditional schools. I had an opportunity to move to Los Angeles. At the time, we were very young. And my now husband was moving out there. And I said, after some wavering, you know what? I'm going to come too. And I found myself at an interview at a brand new school in Los Angeles. And they were hiring a ton of teachers. And they're like, I was like, wow, 5 math and science teachers at great odds. This is perfect. But I went and I met the people and it was amazing, and met who is now still the CEO of the Da Vinci Schools Charter Network, Dr. Matt Wonder, who became a very close friend and colleague over many years that day. And I was like, yep, this is the kind of movement and school I want to be part of. I was kind of frustrated in a more traditional system, even at a young age. I was like, I feel like this is not why I got into this, right?
Right.
And so anyway, so I found myself at the Da Vinci Schools. I spent 10 years there as a teacher and a principal. And wow. I think it was really transformative. I didn't know it when I took the job. I just thought like, oh, this seems like a great place to work and be. Little did I know it would totally launch my career in the trajectory it did many, many years later.
Right.
So having worked there for over 10 years, when I was a principal, I was toying with moving back to the East Coast and leaving the principalship. I had just had my first son. And I said, I had told my boss, I said, I would bring this place with me if I could, but I think we've got to make some changes. And he said, well, hold on. Just don't make any decisions yet, And long story short, I was given the opportunity to build and found through some partnerships, this Portal Learning. nonprofit. And I spent 6 years doing that. I'm kind of building and designing a micro school model that was co-located on a corporate campus. It was on the campus of Belkin International.
Which is where?
Their global headquarters in Los Angeles. It's in El Segundo, right near LAX. And we built that. We hit a lot of, I know we'll probably talk about like, what challenges have you hit? Like we hit a ton of bumps on the road because we founded it in 2019. Yes. And we all know what followed in 2020. And correct. So fast forward, we were just doing a ton of really innovative, cool career connected work with employers and really figuring out how do we kind of smooth the transition, right? Because as a principal, I was getting so frustrated. I had all these amazing graduates for many reasons. Don't get me going there.
No. I'm 22 years in education. I get you.
Right. I was like, why are we saying no to things that are good for kids? Right. A cool idea. My teachers wanted to do something innovative and then they got frustrated and then I was frustrated as a leader. And it was, so we were able to kind of move around some of that red tape in the model that we had. Not that didn't create other problems trying to do things that are really innovative, but I think we, were able to experiment with what does it look like to smooth the transition? Because I had so many graduates coming in. They'd come back, oh, Parsons, well, I went to college, but now I can't find a job. They're saying I don't have enough experience.
Oh, hey, right? Okay. Did you have any?
That's how I landed at Portal. And then through all of that, I landed at CAPS and I've been here 6 months and I love it.
Did you have any of them that went to college and went, why am I here? They got there and they went, okay, I understood what I wanted to be here for, but now why am I here? I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
I've got a daughter like that.
They changed their major a bunch of times. They are just frustrated with, also they're coming from a school in Los Angeles. A lot of times they would be put in places where there was like a massive lack of, especially at the time, diversity and inclusion efforts. And so that felt really ostracizing for a lot of our students, and some persevered and some did not.
Right.
We had a lot of students who would say that, we were a project-based learning school. And so a lot of the ways in which we taught and the way that the kids learned was very different than when they went to go sit in a lecture hall at college. And it's not that they couldn't do it, but it was harder for them because they weren't quote unquote trained that way. We did not believe in school for more school. We believed in school for learning.
Right.
And we got better at the balance over time, but it felt like a concession.
Yes.
Right. It's like, I guess it's like the tail wagging the dog. And that was always a big thorn in my side, just because our kids otherwise were so engaged with what we were doing. And then they would get kind of, I don't know, they would come back a little bit jaded.
Right.
From the college experience.
They were prepared for something different. And then they get out there and go, it's just like your job. You get out there and go, oh, wait, this is real world, which is one of the things that you and I talked about was it's that experience. How do you create that experience where you create this trust is about what makes you tick, trust, clarity, and traction. So how do you create a path of clarity? So when a kid gets out there, oh, this is what a day in the life of an engineer looks like. Oh, this is a day in the life with this. You know what I mean? How do you create that?
Yeah. The ability to create experiences for kids is key. Like we've seen that be so transformative. And I think that happens to an extent in the higher education system, but that's not where they're generating revenue and dollars and credits. And so like for us at the high school level, it was always about experience because we believe, and when I say we, it's like both we as in like the education community I am part of, both like personally and in work.
Yes.
That students learn best by doing. I think we all as humans could, relate to that. And I think we believe that the only way people always talk about, oh, they need to build these durable skills. They need to build soft skills. You can't teach that through a PowerPoint lesson. It's not going to work. The only way they're going to learn how to actually like sit with and grow their growth mindset is to use it and do it. The only way they are going to persevere is by doing it and being put in tough situations and having to figure it out. And so there's no amount of like papers or Scantron tests that are going to teach those things that employers actually want. So we're big experience people, like experience overall, because it opens their eyes to not only like what they know they're good at and they're like affirmed, but things they didn't think they were all that maybe strong at, that they find out they are.
Yes.
And that's pretty cool.
Yes. You connect your path. I'm laughing earlier because we've talked before about your path a little bit. And it's funny because I see you went there. Oh, like the kind of the attitude. Oh, I get some resolve. Oh, it's a cool place to work is how you got into education. I had to have somebody talk me to get into education. I graduated and I think it took me 7 years before I got into education because I couldn't find another job. And then I ended up spending 22 years. And now I have not a passion for the system, but a passion for the kids. I have a passion to be in there and your engagement. Like I'm thinking today, I left work today because we were on day 4 with kids. And I left today going, I've sat in front. Now we've done activities. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, my kids have sat in their chair and I'm going nuts. I can only imagine what they're doing. So the engagement of what we want to do and the engagement of what you're talking about is huge within our kids.
Totally. And Bryan, remind me, you're in a high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get freshmen coming in for biology. And I also coach. So I get to break them in.
Sure.
And I told them today, and you can relate to this. And most people that are in education can relate to this. I told them, I said, look, I'm going to help you, but you're accountable for your own actions. So if you say the word, I don't know, I'm going to make you and everybody in this class write about it, what you don't know. And I don't want to go down. These just things do that because I think we teach kids that you have to be perfect to be successful when all you have to do is try. And that will lead you down a part because it tells you what you do or what you don't want to do, which aligns with exactly with what you're talking about.
Totally. There is no greater kind of tell than experience. And quite frankly, and I loved being a teacher and I really enjoyed, I feel like as far as principalships go, it was a great place to be a principal, all of those things. But and I don't know, I think people in education obviously know, like they're very hard jobs.
Yes.
Very emotionally demanding. It can also be physically exhausting. I didn't have an Apple Watch at the time, but I could the amount of steps I probably got every day was probably astronomical. Because I'm booking it. I mean, my kids used to make fun of like, oh, I hear Miss Parsons' keys in the hall. You're like, no, it's so demanding in so many different ways. And it is so human centric.
Yes.
And I don't quite know. And look, every job is hard in different ways. I'm not trying to diminish or build up one over the other. But I don't know that anyone who's never been in a school could really fully grasp how challenging and demanding and fulfilling the work is, right? No. Because we're providing like the care is so deep, right? It becomes so deep. And so, but it is hard. And if someone's like, what? Oh, do you like your job? Of course I love my job now. And it's hard in a different way.
Correct.
But that was harder, right? Like in a certain way, I'm like, man, that was like one of the toughest jobs I've ever held.
And the transferable skills that you get from being in there. Look, my family life became different because I was a teacher, not because it was more taxing, but I was able to experiment on other people's kids, so to speak. But I could see, you could see what's going on. Being out for 7 years and coming back, the biggest difference for me is I wanted to be that energy for that kid in their day because I might be the only one.
Yep.
And I don't know who else is doing that. I mean, we've got tons of teachers, don't get me wrong, but who else in other jobs are doing that? Business development, you can go out and you can utilize that, but you're still focused on your business.
Totally.
And the relationships.
Yeah. I think people like laugh. They think I'm joking when I say this, but I'm not at all. When I was 16, I started working before I was 16. I was camp counselor and all the things, whatever you could do before you were 16. And then I started working I'm from New Jersey. So a small local Italian restaurant, pizzeria, hole in the wall next to like a bodega, whatever, all of the things. Hired 16-year-olds, cash under the table, old school, and I worked there from the time I was 16 until I was about 18. So as a 16-year-old, I was taking phone orders, taking counter orders, waiting tables, and doing whatever else needed to be done in that restaurant that was run by like 2 Sicilian sisters and their cousin Rosario making the pizza, like it was so, but I'm like, talk about learning how to multitask customer service,
Oh my gosh.
understanding people's feelings, empathizing. And you're doing this at age like 16. They're like, what prepared you to be a principal most? I got that question all the time. I was like,
Yes.
well, it wasn't my program. I'll tell you that much. It was honestly like my life experiences of having to interact with humans and understand how they worked,
Yes.
how to diffuse a situation, how to make them feel heard, how to deliver, right, something quality. And I know it sounds silly, but I am like a staunch, like we have 2 younger kids. They're 5 and 7. They'll be in kindergarten and 2nd grade. And I am like a staunch, I'm like, they will work in food service or
Yes.
in customer service, right? Because it is one of the jobs that will prepare you for almost anything else. You got to show up.
Yes.
Can't let up for a minute. Like it is, I was also an athlete, so I'm like by nature fairly tenacious, but I
Same.
think that there's like something in that really prepared me to like handle high pressure situations.
Yes.
And I stand by it.
No, look, my first job was I worked at LSU under ushering, but that was not much money. That was like a summer gig. Was working at Domino's, and then at 17, I applied for this place in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, called Ralph and Cacoo's. Great seafood place. They didn't have an opening as a waiter, so they put me as a bartender. So I had to learn how to shuck oysters at 17. I'm sitting here bartending, making drinks and shucking oysters. And I would agree that needs to be honestly, I think it's a semester requirement in college. Your first year as a freshman. Yeah. It has exactly those skills for sure.
Really? Look, I was a waitress forever. Anyway.
Yeah. So let's move on. I do want to talk about books before we get to our break.
Sure.
So I asked before, give me a book. What's your book?
Totally. Well, I read lots of books all across the map. I'm all over the place. But when it relates, I think, to more of what we're talking about today, there's one book I love. Actually, hold on. Let me find it here. It's called Impact Players. Have you ever read it? By Liz Wiseman. I'll flash it up if anyone. Oh, my blurring is not going to let us do it, but it's a fun, pretty cover. There it is. Impact Players by Liz Wiseman.
Got it.
I read, I guess it was maybe 2021. I forget it was 21 or 22 it came out. Anyway, I was reading it. She talks about the difference between what she defines as impact players versus contributors on a team. And ultimately, she's like, these impact players are people that are like kind of they're delivering their full potential, I guess is the easiest way to say it, right? They deliver like exceptional value and impact across their organization, not just in their little thing, but they really add value across the board. Versus your typical contributors, these are people who are still doing a good job, but they're only worried about their own work. They're not worried about how can I serve others? How can I write? And so she breaks down these like differences between them. And so there's like 5 practices that because they did it through all this research they found with employers, like what are the things that make someone an impact player as they have defined it. And it talks about like doing the job that needs to be done, stepping up and leading, learning to adapt and change, making heavy demands feel lighter. Like these are all of those things. What's the last one? Oh, it's like not letting problems kind of like fester. You're like, okay, it's a problem. We're going to solve it. We're going to move it across the finish line. Yeah. Right? It's going to get there. And so in all of that, they approach it with an opportunity mindset, which could probably be equated to like a growth mindset. And the one thing that really relates to me, and it relates even, I have like a very recent example in my own work of how it manifested for me, even now, 20 years later in my career, which was they what does she call it? They like get or understand the unwritten rules. And so what it means is, she's like, it's very easy for someone to say, here's your job description. Here's what you're responsible for. Here's this, here's the systems we use. And someone goes and does that and they deliver what they're supposed to. But a real impact player, and it doesn't have to be the CEO or a manager, it could be anybody. Right. The whole thing is that you take the initiative to tune in to the needs of the company or the organization. You tune in to what your teammates need. And then you figure out a way to get that done in a way that jives with that team and culture. And so it's like, without anyone having to tell you, without anyone asking, it's like the way that you work is that you are tuning into needs, you're listening to people, and the work that you do, you are like you are elevating everybody. Right. And when I had read this years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, and there's one line from the book that I love when I'll read it to you. It says, when the world of work is changing fast, the critical skill isn't what you know, but how fast you can learn. So it's really about like her whole thing is like, so what if you don't know? Like, the whole thing about impact players is that they don't actually know. They don't walk in being like, I know what everybody needs.
Yes.
But they take the time, right, to see everything as an opportunity to learn and say, okay, I'm going to figure out how to get this done. And I'm going to do it. And I'm going to ask for help along the way. And like, anyway, the book is fantastic. I've used it with teams. I've used like just excerpts of it to like coach people. And I came into my new role as Chief Strategy Officer at CAPS about 6 months ago. And it is an incredible organization that has done incredible work to date. And I had a lot to catch up on. But I also had to run like strategic kind of like team sessions 3 weeks into my job.
Yes.
So I was like, all right. So I spent 3 weeks, like my approach to like any new, I've consulted for a while. So my approach to any new team is just taking the time to sit with everyone as long as they want to talk. I put an hour on the calendar. If you talk for 2, I'll stay, And so It's like, I just was really trying to dig in. What does a team need? What am I hearing? Are the pain points, all this stuff? And like in 3 weeks, I was like, I was able to generate. Now, was it perfect? Probably not. But I was able to generate like 3 days worth of team content that we worked through. And now we're actually doing some actionable stuff with it. But I take a lot of her work to heart because I think you can do a good job, but a lot of this stuff really leads to doing work that is like passionate. And I do think it leads to more opportunity. And I do think it leads to you finding your purpose. And so like, I think if you approach work that way, that it's really changed the way I work in that way.
It's on so I just added it to my list.
It's a good one.
It'll be my next book. I've got one that I had one of my guests on last week or 2 weeks ago that said, and I can't remember. I just added it and I'll start it. Actually, after this, when I go for my run, I'll start it. The book I chose for our conversation is one, it's kind of actually fitting, but it's more relaxing. It's Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. And it's really talking about from a very spiritual way of focusing on what's in the moment, where most of us let our mind and our past kind of push who we are. And we really focus on what the future is, but we miss what's now. Yeah. And it's living fully in the present and being able to unlock the genuine peace and fulfillment within. And there were 3 takeaways because I'll go back and listen to a book and I take notes on it. Then I'll go back and listen to excerpts of it here and there. And I forgot how peaceful it was in the voice. It's really very spiritual type of book, which is completely like you. I'm all over the place. Anything that has a positive message, I'm listening or giving it a shot. But there are 3 real takeaways that I liked. And one was that fear isn't actually about what it is. It's about what might happen. In other words, we fear more about what's coming up than actually what fear is. That's right. One of the second ones was, of course, focus on the present, that a lot of times we miss it. What's happening in the moment is what needs to happen and what we should be focusing on. And the third one was that it kind of revolves around all of this, that the idea of happiness or peace will come when certain conditions are met as a roadblock. And we tend to wait until those conditions are met before we go through that roadblock, when that roadblock is actually there to help us get over the obstacle we need to. It's like you said, it's that teaching moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, I'm gonna have to add that to my list. That sounds very up my alley. So
if you listen to it, do you listen or read?
I'm mostly a reader, but I dabble in listening.
See, I'm from South Louisiana, so I don't have a good reading education. I ain't got much of so I like to listen to it. Yeah. His voice is very peaceful, but you have to be in that spiritual mindset to listen to it. Yeah. Crazy. All right. So let's do a quick reset. Today is and we're behind, but who cares? We're just having a good conversation and helping other people out. Today, this is my 11th podcast of What Makes You Tick. It's an authentic, relaxed, purposeful conversation on trust, clarity, and traction. Why? Because we want to help incorporate your purpose into what you do and make an impact in others' lives. And literally, that's what I say every time, but it goes off exactly what you just said without even saying anything. How sharing, that's why I want to read that book. How we're going to do that, we're going to sharing business and personal stories to build a culture of trust, creating a clear impactful message for leaders with the insight on how to build traction within your life. So again, my guest today Kate, thank you so much for being here once again. And I'll say that throughout.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Look, I'm going to go backwards because one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, and we've spent a lot of time talking about other things, but I want to talk about how to build trust in a remote setting. Well, right now, we've got a lot of educators just going through a lot here in Texas. They're looking at creating NIL for high school. They're looking at creating different avenues that combat this learning at home and all of these small schools that are branching off, because public education, honestly, needs a big boost. And there's a lot of people that are fighting it.
Yeah.
But we seem to be remote. I mean, and it's almost a disconnected way within education, within our society. How do you find that we create trust and clarity within this type of setting?
So, I mean, it's a great question because I think that it takes a lot of intentionality, and it's really hard because there are a lot of factors that you can't control.
Right.
And that gets really challenging. I mean, you're already, when you think about teaching in a classroom, there's already a lot of external factors that impact the work you do. And so removing humans from that one step further makes it even harder. So I just want to start with that because I certainly don't want to diminish, like I have the answer. I don't.
Right.
I have some ideas about what makes it better. I think there's kind of like the tactical and then the human centric piece of this, right? So when I say that, so we have to do it too. So our team is small. We're a lean and mean nonprofit of 6 people, 6 full-time employees. 2 are located where the headquarters is. Mm-hmm. 2 are somewhat located near there, but they don't work there because they're out in the field a lot, or they're working from home in between working in the field with our education. And then there are 2 of us who are not located in Overland Park, Kansas, which is where our headquarters is. So we have talk about a hybrid team. We're all different kinds of working styles, working teams, et cetera. And so I think the couple of things, and this is actually something that we had talked about is about a month in when I came on, was how do we think about spending time intentionally together, even though we're not always together. Uh-huh. So from an adult standpoint, even we need to make sure we do this and do it well.
Correct.
So I think there's a couple of things we've learned that have been working, or things that I've noticed about our team that make it work. So one I would say is setting norms and just being willing for everyone to kind of build those together and be vulnerable in the moment and communicate openly. Getting comfortable doing that in a virtual setting. Yes. Is helpful. We have we developed together a ways of working. I had kind of pieced some together through my many, many years of work in facilitation and consulting, and the team added some. So we have our own ways of working. So the way we are when we are together, which I think helps so that people feel like everyone's kind of living by the same set of values when you're virtual. So I think that's important. I think we also have folks that are they show up, they communicate well, never leave anyone hanging. I don't care if you're 5 minutes late, if you text, I generally don't care at all really, but our team does a really good job, right? But if you're someone who's always late and you're never texting to say, hey, be right there, or yeah, it rarely happens anyway. Our team shows up, but they always let you know if they can't, right? It's the communication is very open, very, very timely. And so I think showing up, being present, we have this norm. I actually took it from a consultant friend over at Transcend Education. It was be present, not perfect. Something like that. It's just be as present as you can be in the moment in time, right? And just be really intentional about how you spend your time. I think we also saw the importance of making time for connection, so what we do is we said, okay, we're going to meet once a week. We call it our weekly traction. Yes. So we have 1 hour on a Monday. We met earlier today, and we have a fairly loose agenda. And the first 10 minutes is just kind of chatting. How's everyone doing? How's your kid's flag football team? Oh, how's your kid doing? Oh, they went off to wherever. Oh, that's fun. Oh, it just kind of starts today, the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce podcast came up. We just kind of chat. Yeah. for 10, 15 minutes, which I think a lot of teams, and look, I am a New Jersey girl. I told you I'm a doer. I love efficiency, but that is efficient. It's important. It's important to create community and connection with people that you don't see every day.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's actually purposeful. We build time in for it. So I think something maybe educators or folks could do is be really intentional about making time for human connection.
Right.
It is valuable. It is going to be that will make, even if it takes 10 minutes away from your instruction, it's going to make that 30 minutes of instruction you have 10 times better. People respect each other. They're actually listening. They're engaged. There's a reason for them to show up. And so I think that it's seeing it as a tool and a value as opposed to an eye roll and a distraction.
Yes.
Again, it's how you approach things. It's an opportunity, not a threat. And so that's how I see it. I also think sometimes there are ways that allow people to maybe be a little more clear than they might be otherwise. They might be uncomfortable saying something to someone in person. Maybe they don't want to voice something in an in-person meeting. They can put it in the chat. They can put it in a Google Doc. So I also think getting creative, when I think about students, right? The ways that they interact actually could be amped up by it if you set up the right systems. And to be clear, I've not been in a physical classroom for some time now. So I also want to be clear, I'm no expert, but from our team, those are things that I think matter. And it's why we don't see each other all that often. 4 times a year, we have in-person strategic sessions.
Right.
And maybe a conference, all those things. But
yeah. But so everything else is this way.
Yeah. It feels like we're together.
Yeah. Well, and if you approach it the right way, you can. It's funny because we talk about one of the big things that's a huge push. And for me, I've done both education and business development. I worked for a food company, as a matter of fact, Gordon Foods. I worked for them for a while. Oh. And the one thing that that always has been big or has grown over the last 10 years is the relationship with people and building that relationship. And if you have these types of conferences, to be able to get in front of them. And I'll be honest with you, what that's done for me going back to the classroom. And I was complaining this year. I complained more in the last couple of days because of things that are unexpected and that I'm not used to. And I'm a guy that wants to be prepared. I'm going to go into class. I want to give you the best presentation or best energy that I can. I don't want to give you my best. I want to also be able to receive what you have. But I complained, and there's 2 things. One, I complained because I haven't had time to be able to get to know my kids. And I don't like that. I want to get to know my kids. And I'm not the only one. There's several other teachers that have said the same thing. But I will say this, the one thing, and this is where being virtual or being in person is huge, is being able to make that connection and being able to consistently follow up. I've never felt so, how can I say this, blessed, I guess, with the amount of kids that have come back by my room that are going into 10th grade now and that have made it intentional to come between class in the morning to come by and say hello and introduce their face. I've never had that happen before. And it's one of those things that the face-to-face place you get, you can see that. So to be able to build that virtually and be able to work on that is huge. It's extremely important.
It is.
Yeah. And we talked about, you mentioned it earlier, you have to have the right mindset. So for you and what you've gone through, how has your mindset created, how have you maintained a positive mindset through all the obstacles or opportunities that you've had?
Yeah, I don't think I've always had it. I certainly believe that it is a skill honed over time, and it comes with experience and maturity, which is why, though, we really say kids need to start doing this stuff in middle school. They need to start doing it in middle school, high school, build the chops, because by the way, we didn't have those opportunities, and then I had to learn it in my early adulthood, right? Yes. I was likely a very different employee at 23 than I was even at 28. And I think there are a couple of things that contributed. I mentioned before, I was a very competitive athlete.
Same.
It was my identity,
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
It should have been a little bit more multifaceted, quite frankly. But So I think there's part of that where it's not just like the tenacity and like your mindset of like, I got this, I can push through this, I'm going to find a way. But it also is paired with the like being a team player, figuring out how to get the team to the finish line. And then later in my career, like the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a huge part of what I do now on my team is I'm actually like, I serve as a little bit more of a coaching role. So I think like for me, part of it truly is I attribute it to like athlete mindset.
Yes.
And being a team player. And I think some of the other things truly at the Da Vinci schools, when I was there, we did a lot of work, maybe like a little bit, we were probably like slightly on the early adopter curve, but really like infusing Carol Dweck's mindset work.
Correct.
Into our work with kids, but like in tandem, we as adults were learning it. And trying, like, we are going to live by this, you know? So we're like, this is right. This is good, guys. We have to be this way too, you know, and constantly checking ourselves as adults. Are we really actually acting, you know, with a growth mindset? Are we approaching all these problems with a growth mindset? And so part of it, I think, was like a forcing factor of like, we know kids need this, so we as adults need to build it too. So those mindset shifts, I think, got us through a lot there.
You know, and those are things that, because same thing for here. For me, when I started learning about mindset, it changed my perspective.
Right.
Now I have mindset and, you know, all the word walls, and that's the mindset. And the difference between the two is one of the things that it's the first thing I put up on my wall this year when I moved rooms. Yeah. Find it huge. And look, being a former athlete, I'm laughing because before this, we talked about you have that one moment and that's all I wanted to do was play baseball. That was it. Yep. And I grew up where we had, you know, South Louisiana, Skip Berkman came in, and I was fortunate enough to be around him when he was building a program and watch some of the athletes around me go and be able to play. Of course, I was never that good, but I put my heart and soul into it. And you were talking about you never know when it comes up. Again, I didn't want to be a teacher, but is your degree in teaching?
It is.
Okay. So then did you guys have to do student teaching?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My year, I was ready to get out. I went to a college or a high school that was about 30 minutes away, a small school in Arkansas. They were, 4A was the biggest. So they were 3A. And we ended up, the guy was a graduate from my college. He was the pitcher. I was the catcher. And we pulled some JV guys and we'd scrimmage all the time. Do you know, we ended up winning state that year. And when I came here to watch, I was fortunate enough to get a job when I moved to Texas, my second year of teaching at the Woodlands High School. And that was 98, 99, and 2000. Mm-hmm. They won a baseball state championship. We won again in 06 and we won again in 2013. Mm-hmm. All of that was a absolute blessing. And there'll be an article that I've already written it. I'll put out on LinkedIn. The biggest thing I got from that was the mindset of those players. Because there were other teams that were better or as good. Our 06 team was phenomenal. We've got several guys that came from that went to the pros. So that was probably one of the best teams. But the rest of them, there were several that were as good. But their mindset or their chemistry, like you were talking about, the chemistry within the team was not the same. Mm-hmm. So you start to learn where the mindset is, and you start to learn how impactful that is.
Right.
And the funny thing is, a lot of these kids, I've watched them. As a matter of fact, one of the guys from one of our teams was on my third or fourth podcast. He's a chiropractor now. So I was like, look, I got to have you on so we can. And it's awesome to see these kids, and you know their mindset's going to make them successful no matter what they choose to do.
That's right.
And it's awesome to watch.
Yeah.
We're getting tight on time. Let me get to a real quick reset. So thank you guys for listening to my 11th podcast, What Makes You Tick. Kate and I are having an authentic conversation on purposeful conversation on trust, clarity, and traction. There goes What Makes You Tick. If you have any questions, which I saw one comment, hey, yay, education in our comment, please send the DM. We've got about another 10 minutes or so left. And one of the things I always want to do in the end is we talk about advice. There's two pieces of advice. One, the first one I want to talk about, I always want to end on our young generation. But what advice would you give someone that's looking to turn their dream into reality? What's the biggest thing that's made a big impact on you?
Yeah. I mean, there's lots, I would say, but I think if you're like, what's the one thing that you need to make sure you're doing and focusing on? aside from like probably what's obvious, which is like being true to your why and trusting the process and all those things.
Yeah.
My biggest thing, because my personal experience has led me to believe that the most important thing someone can do who is trying to build their own thing or follow their passions and pursue this dream is to like build and leverage your network. It is the most important thing. And no one teaches you how to do that, by the way. Our program focuses on that, but no, high school has like a huge gap in teaching kids the value of a network, social capital, all of that.
Which is why you're one of my guests, because we're aligned. Yeah.
Like you're not going to get there alone, friend.
No.
Sorry. No one has gotten where they've gotten alone. And I think it's like, we did this in our programs in LA. It was like really explicitly, how are you building your network? Did you build your network this week? What'd you get out of your mentor? We had a mentorship program. Who else is a mentor? Who's an informal mentor? Why are mentors important? What are you going to bring to your mentor? Why? Yeah. What do you think you're going to get out of that? Right? Like helping them understand that, like, even as an adult, you have mentors. Like the reason I am in the place I am now, I could name minimum easily off the top of my head 5 people who had an absolute difference in my trajectory because of an opportunity they gave me or what they taught me, skills, mindset. And so for me, it's like, don't be afraid to build the network, reach out for the coffee, do the thing, because here's the thing, everyone wants to lift somebody up who has passion and a vision and who has purpose. So I think people are often really, really afraid to like reach out, build the network, get the experience, but it's like, it has been so critical for me.
Yes.
And so I know I've seen it be true for many of my students as well. Right. So that's what I would share.
Now, and one of the things that we have, we talked briefly about the Cup of Joey down here in Houston, and it's really connected through purpose. And because when you talk business networking, you go up and the first thing, this was my initial experience, was somebody would ask you, what do you do? And you would tell them and they would go, oh, okay, cool. Oh, hey. And they'd go to the next person because they're so focused on their business. And I was like, I felt this emptiness because when we found the Cup of Joey, it was talked about what's your purpose? Tell me about yourself. Tell me about you. Let me get to know you. And what that did was inspire an idea, and it aligns very well with what you're talking about, of how kids are missing out of that. You may have a network and you don't know how to use it, or you don't even know how to, they watch so much on the phone, which I'll tell you about that because we haven't talked about this piece yet. Nope. But they miss so many things on their phone and they're so locked in to what they're doing. But how do they actually use that? And one of the things that we've done with the Cup of Joey is we've talked about building a relationship, but you may not be the one that can help me immediately. It's your network that I connect to and that we go, hey, oh, by the way, oh, hey, you're single. Hey, I got a date for you. I got somebody, or hey, there's a job opening coming up, or have you ever looked into this? And it inspires that connection and it inspires that why. Yep. Being able to tap into that is crazy. Now, the one thing that I was going to share earlier, I kept thinking about, and this is a perfect opportunity. Have you heard what Texas did for phones for high school or for school?
Are they doing like bell-to-bell phone free? I haven't heard exactly.
Yeah, they passed a law saying that you cannot, our time, we start at 7:10. So from 7:05 to 2:35, you cannot have your phone out.
Support it fully.
Last year, oh, absolutely. Last year, you could watch these kids walk between classes, put their earbuds in immediately when they go out, and they're on their phones and rarely talking. Mm-hmm. Now they go in, they can't get their phones out. You don't see them doing this number down here. And they're sort of engaged, but they don't know how to engage. So that's
almost have to, I was going to ask, so how are they responding? Do you have to like retrain them a little bit?
You do, you have to retrain them. They're going to start finding ways because it's like any addiction. There will be a withdrawal period.
Yeah.
And this first week or so, I'm seeing difference. You see kids in the hall. Look, those kids are coming back to talk to me now because they don't have time to spend on their phone. Yeah. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Great. I love that. I mean, look, even adults could even use a little more restriction on their phone use. Let's be real. I mean, it's a real thing. So I love that schools are doing that for kids. I think it's
really important. It can be a misdemeanor. It is a law.
Wow.
I know. That's right. There's a lot of other stuff, but even and as a teacher, I mean, one side of it, I had gotten to where, and I think a lot of us, we have our mind. So on the phone, when there's something go with athletics, it would pop up for them. I have some lessons that I did last year that they could actually do research on their phone, and the other piece is all the AI. If you utilize the AI correctly, in other words, you're not using it to cheat and make it your own.
Right.
It's a great educational tool. My son, who just graduated last year, didn't go to college. He does, but he doesn't know. He's one of those kids that he doesn't know what he wants to do.
Yep.
So what did he do? He started his own business. He went on AI and he started his own business. And I'm his mentor, because I've had failed business and I've had successful sales. So I have both experiences, too much failure on one side, but you learn from those things, and I'm able to help and share him. Yeah. And it's awesome. So one last thing before we go, always, this is built on what makes you tick: trust, clarity, and traction. And with us being in the impact of young generations, what is any advice? It doesn't have to be one piece, but what is any advice that you would give to our younger generation?
Yeah.
How to build trust, clarity. Trust and clarity are the two foundations. How do you build trust in as a youngster?
Yeah, I mean, look, trust is at the foundation of, at least the work I've always done, because relationships are at the center of what I've always done.
Yes.
So I think when you talk about trust, what you're really talking about is relationship building and maintenance, right? And so, like, to me, what I would tell them is, like, what I think trust means and what I think you should strive towards is being honest, being reliable, and being consistent. Yes. Like, that's what trust means. Like, someone will trust me if I am honest and I am reliable and I'm consistent. That's like the baseline.
Yeah. Person of your word. Right.
Mean what you say.
Yeah.
Right. And act with integrity, and don't you have to, like, trust yourself, and then you can gain the trust of others. But if you're not going to trust yourself, that's actually going to be really hard. And I think that's hard for young people. You have a lot of influences. I'm not saying I was perfect at 21 either.
Right.
But over time, you learn to trust your gut, trust your instincts, be yourself. And, like, you have to work at building relationships, whether it's in personal life or in work life.
Yes.
Trust is the foundation of every relationship.
Virtual or in person.
Exactly. And every relationship is going to get you where you want to go. And so that's for trust. That's that. Clarity is a funny one. I think about, I imagine you might be, but I won't put you in the box, but I'm pretty sure you're probably a Brene Brown fan.
Yeah. Nah.
Are you? Well, I love Brene Brown. And one thing that she always says is, because she wrote, like, Dare to Lead and Daring Greatly and all of those books. Great books. Okay. I'll share them with you.
Yes, please.
She's a Texan, I believe. But one of her big things is clear is kind. And it came out of this research that they did with leaders. And one thing that leaders ranked as, like, their greatest concern was avoiding tough conversations, including giving honest, productive feedback. That's, like, a quote from their thing. They talk about how these, like, not, like, the culture of being, like, nice and polite actually has adverse effects on, like, productivity and trust, and it creates, like, decreased trust and more back channeling and gossip and lower morale. And because it's like, if you're not clear about your expectations, how can you even ever hold anybody accountable to those expectations as a leader? And how do they really know what you want from them and whether your work is actually good or not?
And how can trust exist if you don't have that?
Exactly. So it's like the clarity and the trust are, like, you could kind of define them as two different things, but they totally work together in my mind. And anytime someone's like, well, we need to make sure we're, like, we're clear. And I'm like, as long as we all know that clear is kind.
Yes.
And that's my biggest thing, because, like, it might sound, I am going to tell you the truth. It might be hard to hear. That doesn't mean it's not true. And it's about how people receive it, and you can't control how they receive it. And so for, like, younger generations, that's really hard.
Yes.
It's hard because it feels like you're inviting conflict when really you're just trying to be clear so that everybody is on the same page. And I've always been a little bit more of a direct, culturally, I think the Northeast,
Agreed.
Not always, but you're a little bit more direct.
Oh, almost always.
Isn't it the joke where it's like acts mean, but is actually nice or whatever, right? Like it's like, but in like California, they'll say like, oh, you act nice, but you're really mean or whatever. There's like funny memes about it these days. But I think there's something to it. And so for young people, I would just challenge, and in some ways, I actually think the generations coming up behind the millennials and everything maybe are a little bit better with boundaries.
They are.
Communicating their feelings and sharing what they need to. But in the workplace, that can be hard when there are other dynamics at play. But I think like clear as kind is like super important for people to embrace.
No, I love that. And I love the way you address the nice, because in the generation I grew up, that's exactly what it is I was that nice guy because I was afraid of that. And it's funny because I thrive in trust and clarity. And the older I've gotten, the more I've been able to represent that instead of being the nice. And I've tried to teach that with my kids. But you're talking about the younger generation. I would absolutely agree that they do that. The problem is they're a little bit more on the rude side with it sometimes. And then some of them take it personally. My big thing is, look, I'm going to give you my trust, period. And the reason I'm going to give you my trust is because if you do something with it wrong or you do something, I start to know who you are. And I know whether I can give you more trust or not. It's not about building trust with me. It's about finding out who you are. So the trust goes along with the clarity because I'm going to trust you. You decide to destroy it. That's on you. It's not on me. Right. But it tells me who you are and what I'm facing. It's just like any science experiment or any thought process. I want to know exactly what I'm dealing with, and I want to be able to work through that. The other piece is if we're going to build any kind of relationship, you have to have both of them. You have to be clear in what your expectations. And if you're not, you have to say, look, hold on, I need some time because I don't understand what I'm trying to tell you.
Right.
And those are things I think, honestly, I think the younger generation, they can get better at the way they do it. But I think I've seen a lot more kids that are willing to do that than my generation and your generation.
Totally. My kids tell me how they feel all the time.
Yeah.
And they feel safe, right? That's what everyone tells me. But I totally agree with you. I think that it's, again, it's right. It's everything. It's all connected, right? Which is why, again, I agreed to be on this because I love what you're doing. I love how you're kind of making the connection between the three. And it's this like stuff that everyone knows it's important, but are we really explicitly teaching it to our kids in schools? Are we using CTE it's like a facade for like, oh, we're doing it. We're checking the box. They got the credential. They finished their courses. Like, what are they really getting? And that's my, I think I said on the panel we were on, or that you had heard me on, like people think they're doing it, but they're not. And I say it with kind of, it's like, are you really like pushing the envelope on innovative learning? Are you really giving kids experiences? Do you really have data and impact data that's showing you that this is making a difference?
We do, but I don't think we're using the right data.
Right. Exactly. Oh, it's like totally
data all over the place.
100%. So it's like, and then it's like, right. So I think there's, we have a lot of alumni, and we have an impact data report we do every 2 years. And this, the more recent one just came out, and it's the big report. We're putting one out for public consumption soon. I can share that with you too, Bryan, but it's, they talk about like the most impactful part of their program being like, just like feeling the love, feeling supported, feeling like they had the ability to pivot and be flexible, right? They weren't locked into a pathway. And it's like giving kids this choice and like having kids trust the people who are running these programs and right? Like, and honestly, giving them clear feedback. Like they are like at work. They call them, a lot of our programs call their students associates.
Associates. Yeah.
So it's like, so it's like it all comes full circle. We got to practice what we preach.
And that's all great because one thing we're going to have to end here, but
yes,
we're so dysfunctional on the family side that a lot of that is bled over to the school, and we need to be able to find a better way of doing trust, clarity, and traction in our lives, no matter if we're business or personal.
That's right.
It's not getting done like it used to.
That's right. The world is different, so we've got to figure out how it works now, right?
Yeah. No. So look, thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you for having me.
How would the audience best connect with you?
They are welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
I could also provide LinkedIn is probably the easiest. People can just search Kate Parsons.
Good. And I'll post all that. I'll post it on a recap here in a little bit after I go run. I got to do my daily run because I don't want to get
That's
chunky.
right. Gotta get it in.
And it's, oh my gosh, it's such a mental, it releases all the stress that is just around you, where you have a completely different mindset.
I'm a morning exerciser, so I get it.
Yeah, I can't get up that early. Like, thank you for being my guest on What Makes You Tick. Anything before we go?
No, just thank you. And Bryan, we love educators like you at CAPS. We love like folks that are really willing to like ask the tough questions, and I think there are probably a lot of educators like you, and we need more stepping up doing this kind of work and bringing awareness to it. So thank you for what you do.
No, awesome. Thank you. Look, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find her on LinkedIn. One of the things I always say is be transitional over transactional. Stay with us and please connect with Kate. Next week, I will pivot because I'm not sure exactly who my guest is yet because I'm working to move some things around. So hopefully we'll see you on the podcast, What Makes You Tick, next week. Thank you guys for being here. And
thanks, Bryan.
See you.